Welcome to the world of science fiction, where extraordinary tales come to life. Enjoy the journey. The compass needle quivered, then spun wild. Jake Sullivan watched it dance in his palm, the brass case worn smooth by 3 generations of hands. Magnetic North didn't exist on Kero 7, but he carried it anyway. Some habits died harder than frozen colonists. Day 97, he told the compass, then tucked it back against his chest, still talking to dead things. The acid rain had started early, hissing against his shelter's force field like bacon in a pan. Jake fed another chunk of volcanic driftwood to his fire and settled back on his heels. The thermal capsules sat untouched in their case, perfectly good tech that would heat his shelter for weeks. He'd packed them to shut up command. He'd burn wood until the planet ran out. His breakfast sizzled over open flames, local mushroom analogs that tasted like rubber and despair, paired with honest-to-God earth coffee from his dwindling supply. The shelter's recycler could fabricate 100 flavors of protein paste. Jake preferred honest hunger to fake food. The perimeter alarm chirped. Small fauna again. Keros's version of rabbits if rabbits were silicon-based and leaked sulfuric acid when stressed. Jake made a note in his field journal, pencil scratching against real paper. Another thing Command couldn't understand. Frontier Warden, Jake Sullivan, personal log, day 97. He aimed the recorder at his weathered face, knowing how he'd looked to the desk jockeys back home. 3 months of beard, eyes gone feral at the edges. Northern Grid Sector 7 through 12 mapped and tagged. No significant hazards beyond the usual: acid rain, methane pockets, temperature drops that'd make a Yeti homesick. He paused, considered editing that out, didn't. Ran into something interesting yesterday. Plant-like organism that grows toward heat sources. Might be useful for early warning systems in colonies. Full report attached. He scratched his beard. Tell Martinez his state-of-the-art bioscanner couldn't identify half the proteins out here. Gonna need better toys if... The coffee mug exploded. Jake moved before the conscious thought formed, rolling left as boiling coffee splashed where his head had been. His hand found the rifle propped against his pack. The force field flickered, intact, but something had punched through hard enough to shatter ceramic. No second shot. He swept the perimeter through thermal sights. Nothing. The local predators hunted with acid spit, not projectiles. Raiders didn't exist this far into uncharted territory. So what? There. Heat signature moving fast through the ravine, 200 meters out. Too big for local fauna, too small for a vehicle. Bipedal gait but wrong somehow, stumbling. The signature flared hot, cold, hot like damaged tech bleeding power. Jake killed the fire with a handful of dirt and ghosted outside. The acid rain hit his weathersuit with familiar violence, each drop a tiny chemical burn that the fabric neutralized. He'd learned to move with the rain on Keros, using its hiss to mask footfalls. The heat signature crashed into a boulder, rebounded, kept running, or trying to. Whatever it was hurt bad. Command's gonna love this, Jake muttered, working his way down the ravine. His grandfather would have called this a fool's errand, chasing trouble in hostile territory. Then again, Grandpa had tracked wounded grizzlies through Montana blizzards for fun. The signature stumbled again. This time, it didn't get up. Jake approached low and careful, rifle ready. The thermal scope showed a humanoid form cooling rapidly against frozen rock. No weapons visible. He thumbed his comm unit. Frontier Warden Sullivan, marking potential first contact. Grid reference. He stopped. The figure moved, trying to crawl. Blue liquid steamed where it touched stone. Blood. That was blood. Jake closed the distance in 3 strides. The figure wore the shredded remains of an exosuit, military grade from the looks of it. Violet skin showed through tears in the fabric. Female, by the curved form. Very female. She turned at his approach and Jake forgot to breathe. silver hair plastered to her skull by rain and blood, features that looked carved from purple gemstone, high cheekbones, full lips now blue with cold. Her eyes opened, revealing irises like molten gold. "Please." The word came out mangled by cold and an alien accent. "Warm me. With your body. Human." Her eyes rolled back. She went limp. Chapter 2. Storm Warning. Jake slung his rifle and pressed 2 fingers to her throat. No pulse. Wait, there. Faint and way too slow, but something. Her skin felt like ice sculpture. The med scanner screamed warnings when he ran it over her. Core temperature 15 degrees Celsius and dropping. For a human, that meant death. For whatever she was. Araki, he read off her suit's identifier patch. Jake knew the name, one of the allied species, cold-blooded desert dwellers. Baseline body temp around 45 degrees Celsius, which meant she was dying. Jake stripped off his outer gloves and checked her wounds. 3 punctures through the exosuit, each weeping that blue blood. Energy weapon burns from the cauterized edges. Someone had shot her in the back while she ran. The scanner kept screaming about hypothermia. No shit. He needed to get her warm, but his med kit was calibrated for human physiology. One wrong drug could kill her faster than the cold. "Okay, lady, we do this the old-fashioned way." Jake gathered her up, surprised by her weight, denser muscle mass than human norm. She moaned when he lifted her, pressing instinctively against his chest. Even through his suit, he felt her skin pulling at his heat. The trip back took 10 minutes through driving rain. 10 minutes of her blood soaking his gear, her breathing getting shallower. Jake kicked open his shelter's door and stumbled inside. First things first. He laid her by the dead fire and grabbed his trauma kit. The puncture wounds needed sealing before she bled out. Jake worked fast, spraying biofoam into each hole. The foam was designed for humans, but battlefield medicine was battlefield medicine. Seal the leak. Worry about complications later. Her temperature had dropped to 12 degrees Celsius. Jake rebuilt the fire with practiced efficiency, feeding it until flames leaped chest high. The shelter's thermal regulators whined in protest. He cranked them to maximum, turning his living space into a sauna. Still, not enough. Her skin had gone from violet to deep purple, almost black at the extremities. Frostbite equivalent, maybe. How long did she have? How cold was too cold for her species? "Should have paid attention in xenobiology," Jake muttered, then made a decision that would have gotten him court-martialed in the military. He stripped. Chapter 3. Desperate Measures. The exosuit came off in pieces, revealing more of that violet skin marred by bruises and burns. Jake tried to keep it clinical, but she was, Christ, she was stunning, curved in ways that transcended species, with muscle definition that suggested a warrior under all that feminine beauty. "Focus, Sullivan. She's dying." Jake peeled off his own thermals, hissing as the superheated air hit bare skin. He grabbed the emergency thermal blanket, rated for absolute 0, should hold heat like a bastard, and wrapped them both inside. She was ice against him. Jake pulled her tight, trying to maximize contact. Her head tucked under his chin, her body pressed along his length. He felt like he was hugging a corpse. "Come on," he whispered. "I run hot. Everyone says so. Got that furnace metabolism." For 10 minutes, nothing. Then, a flutter against his chest, her skin warming by degrees. The purple-black faded back to deep violet, then lighter. Where she pressed against him, her skin rippled with color changes like slow-motion auroras. She stirred, murmuring something in her own language. Her hands, which had been limp, suddenly gripped his shoulders. Hard. "Easy," Jake said. "You're safe, relatively speaking." Her eyes snapped open, those gold irises focusing with predatory intensity. For a second, Jake wondered if he'd just saved something that was about to eat him. Then she spoke, her accent turning English into music. "You are very warm." "Yeah, well, core temp of 37 Celsius probably feels like a heat lamp to you." She blinked, processing, then looked down at their tangled bodies, his bare chest against hers, the blanket cocooning them by firelight. "This is not standard first contact protocol." Despite everything, Jake barked a laugh. "Lady, nothing about this is standard." She tried to pull away, gasped as cold air hit her skin, and pressed back against him. "I apologize. Was military biologist Xera of 3rd Fleet. My ship." Her voice caught. "They are dead. All dead." "Who shot you?" "Smugglers, hunting the crown jellies in the southern depths. We tried to stop them." She shivered, though her skin felt warmer now. "They have heavy weapons, military grade. They will come for me." "Let them try." Jake shifted, pulling the blanket tighter. "Nobody finds what doesn't want to be found out here." Xera studied his face, those gold eyes searching. "You are very calm for a human alone with an unknown species." "Not unknown, just never met one in person." He tried for a grin. "Besides, you asked nice, said please and everything." "I did?" "Please warm me with your body, human. Direct approach. I like it." Color flushed through her skin, not the cold response ripples, but something else. Embarrassment? "I was dying. I did not mean to impose." "Lady, Xera, you were about to become a popsicle. A very pretty purple popsicle, but still dead." Jake kept his tone light, trying to ease the tension of their position. "On Earth, we got a rule. You save someone's life, you're responsible for them." "Iraqi have similar beliefs." She paused, though usually with less skin contact. "Yeah, well, desperate times." Jake felt her relax fractionally against him. "How you feeling? Still cold?" "Improving. Your blood runs very hot." "It is." She searched for words. "Pleasant." "That's me. Jake Sullivan, human space heater." He checked the wounds on her back, careful not to disturb their position. The biofoam held, no more bleeding. "Those punctures sealed up, but you need proper medical attention. How long until your people come looking?" Her silence stretched too long. "Xera?" "My ship's emergency beacon activated when we crashed, but in this storm, through the magnetic interference." She pressed closer, and Jake tried not to notice how well they fit together. "Perhaps days, perhaps never." "Then we better get comfortable." Jake reached for his pack, careful not to let cold air under the blanket. He pulled out a ration bar. "You eat human food?" "I can digest most carbon-based proteins." She took the bar, nibbled carefully. "This tastes like disappointment." "Welcome to frontier living." Jake grabbed one for himself. "Though I got some local mushrooms that taste worse, if you're feeling adventurous." "You cook with local ingredients? Without full chemical analysis?" "I test everything careful like. Plus, humans got this thing called cast iron stomachs. We can eat pretty much anything that doesn't eat us first." She made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Deathworlders." "Excuse me?" "It is what other species call humans, Deathworlders. You evolved on a planet that tries to kill you, so now nothing can—" She shifted, wincing. "Though you are softer than expected." "Thanks. I think—" They ate in companionable silence, the fire crackling and rain hissing against the force field. Jake felt her skin temperature stabilizing where they touched. The color ripples had settled into slow, hypnotic patterns. "Jake Sullivan," she said finally, "I owe you my life. Among my people, this creates a debt." "No debt, just being neighborly." "Nevertheless." She turned to face him, those gold eyes serious. "When my people come, I will ensure you are rewarded." "Don't need rewards, just need you to not die on my watch." She studied him again, that searching look. "You are strange, Jake Sullivan." "Yeah, I get that a lot." The proximity alarm shrieked. Jake moved on instinct, rolling them both behind his equipment cases as something heavy slammed into the force field. The barrier held, but sparked angry red. "Thought you said they wouldn't find us," Xera hissed. "I said nobody finds what doesn't want to be found." Jake grabbed his rifle, checked the charge. "Guess they want to be found real bad." Another impact. The force field flickered. "How many?" Jake consulted his scanner. 12 signatures, military dropship hovering just outside sensor range. "Zhang's smugglers. They have come to finish the job." "Yeah?" Jake's grin turned feral. "Let's see how they like playing in my backyard." The force field died with the electronic scream. Acid rain and violence poured in. Jake yanked Xara behind the overturned equipment cases as pulse fire shredded his shelter wall. The thermal blanket tangled around them, bare skin sliding against bare skin as they scrambled for cover. "Stay down." He shoved his rifle into her hands. "You know how to use this?" "I am Araki military." A plasma bolt sizzled past her head. She ducked, cursing in her own language. "Yes, I can shoot." "Good. Cover the left approach." Jake grabbed his backup piece and his grandfather's hunting knife. 20 years of muscle memory kicked in. "I'm going out there." "You are insane." She caught his arm, her grip fierce. 12 armed smugglers in my territory. Jake's grin belonged on something with bigger teeth. "Trust me." He rolled through the shelter's ruined door before she could protest. Acid rain hammered his bare chest like liquid fire. No time for protective gear. Speed mattered more than comfort. The first smuggler died confused. Jake came from below, knife punching up through soft armor where the chest plate met the collar. The man's thermal sight would have shown empty ground. Human body temperature barely registered against Karos's volcanic soil. Jake took the smuggler's weapon and comms, then melted back into the storm. "Target acquired!" someone shouted in accented Mandarin. "North Ridge!" The voice cut off. Jake's knife had found another gap. Inside the shelter, Xera tracked targets through the scope. Her infrared vision painted the world in heat signatures. The smugglers glowed like torches, but Jake was a ghost of warmth, flickering in and out of existence. "How is he doing that?" she whispered. A smuggler appeared in the doorway. Xera's shot took him center mass, the rifle's kick surprising her. Human weapons had more punch than she'd expected. "Good shot, purple girl." Jake's voice crackled through the stolen comm. "Keep 'em honest while I work." "Where are you?" "Everywhere." Another smuggler down. This one screamed before the rain swallowed the sound. Zhang's voice boomed from hidden speakers. "Frontier scum, you think you can stand against the Black Star Syndicate? We have—" The explosion cut him off. Jake had found their perimeter charges and repurposed them. When Jake finally stumbled back into the shelter, he was bleeding from a dozen acid burns and grinning like a lunatic. Xera stared at the human who just dismantled a military strike team with a knife and stolen explosives. "You are bleeding." "Yeah, acid rain'll do that." He collapsed next to her, steam rising from his skin. "Got 8 of them. Other 4 ran for their ship." 8. She set down the rifle with shaking hands. "You killed 8 professional soldiers, naked, with a knife." "Technically, I was wearing pants." Jake examined a particularly nasty burn on his shoulder. "And 3 were explosions, so—" She kissed him. It was awkward, desperate, her lips furnace-hot against his. Jake froze for a heartbeat, then pulled her close. She tasted like ozone and alien spices, her body radiating heat that chased away the acid's chill. When they broke apart, her skin rippled with color, violet to purple to something deeper. She touched her lips. "That was inappropriate. You saved me and I—" "Xera." Jake's voice was rough. Maybe let's talk about appropriate later, when people aren't trying to kill us." She nodded, then seemed to notice their position, her straddling his lap, the thermal blanket pooled around them. Professional composure warred with something else in those gold eyes. "You require medical attention." "I require a drink." Jake reached for his med kit, "but this'll do." She helped him treat the burns, her touch clinical but gentle. Every contact sent her skin through color changes that Jake was beginning to recognize as emotional responses. "You fought like the shadow dancers of Eriki legend," she said, spreading burn cream on his chest. "Warriors who could hide from heat itself." "Just Wyoming Ranger tricks. Body temperature regulation, knowing where the eye looks versus where it sees." He hissed as she hit a deep burn. "Grandpa taught me. Said the land should be your partner, not your enemy." "Your grandfather sounds wise." "He was a mean old bastard who made me track elk in blizzards for fun." Jake's smile softened the words. "But yeah, wise." They worked in companionable silence, the storm outside growing stronger. The shelter's walls were compromised, but the rocky overhang above provided some protection. Jake fed the fire until it roared, creating a pocket of warmth in the acid-washed night. "The smugglers will return," Sarah said finally. "Probably, but not tonight. Not after losing 2/3 of their team to one naked human." "You were not entirely naked. You noticed? That color ripple again." "I am trained to observe tactical details." "That what we're calling it?" She threw a ration packet at his head. Jake caught it, laughing. They settled by the fire, wrapped again in the thermal blanket. Necessary for her temperature, Jake told himself. Nothing to do with how perfectly she fit against him, or how her skin seemed to sing where they touched. "Tell me about your world," Jake said. "What's it like?" "Araxes is—" She paused, searching for words. "Beautiful and terrible. 3 suns that never set. Cities of crystal that grow from living rock. We are not a gentle people, Jake Sullivan. We evolved in fire and earned our place through blood." "Sounds familiar." "No." She shifted to look at him. "You do not understand. Humans fight nature and win through stubbornness. Araki became nature. We are the desert given form, the heat death of stars made flesh." Poetic. "It is meant as warning." Her hand found his chest, tracing a scar. "We do not love as humans do. We bond once, permanently. The heat sharing creates connection at the cellular level." Jake's heart did something complicated. "That why you pulled back earlier?" "Yes. Simple, direct. I cannot afford to bond with you, Jake Sullivan. My duty is to the Empire, to my mission." "What mission has a biologist flying combat patrol?" Her silence stretched too long. "Classified. Complicated." She traced another scar. "This one? Grisly. I was 22 and stupid." Jake caught her hand. "The mission that got your people killed. It wasn't about smugglers, was it?" "No." She didn't pull away. "But the result is the same. I am alone on a hostile world with no rescue coming." "Not alone." "No," she agreed. "Not alone." Dawn came like a seizure, Karos's binary suns erupting over the horizon in a blaze of radiation that sent the temperature soaring 40 degrees in minutes. Jake woke to find Xara pressed against him, her skin drinking in his warmth with an almost audible hunger. "Morning," he mumbled. She stretched like a cat, every movement liquid grace. "Your temperature dropped 1.2 degrees while sleeping. Inefficient." "Can't all be walking furnaces." Jake sat up, immediately missing her heat. "How you feeling?" "Functional." She examined her wounds with clinical detachment. "Your primitive foam treatment is surprisingly effective." "Nothing primitive about battlefield medicine." Jake started rebuilding the fire. "Hunger? Ravenous." He produced 2 ration bars and a canteen. She made the face he was beginning to recognize as Eriki disgust. How do you survive on these compressed disappointments? These are the good ones. Try the chicken surprise flavor sometime. Jake rummaged through his pack. But since we're camping proper now, he pulled out a wrapped bundle of local mushrooms and a small pot. You cannot be serious. Kazera watched him prep the ingredients. You burn local flora without spectrographic analysis? I test everything careful like. Plus, Jake set the pot over the flames. Fire purifies. Grandpa's rule number 1. Your grandfather had many rules. Man lived to 90 on a diet of whiskey and whatever he shot that week. Figured he knew something. The mushroom sizzled, releasing an aroma that made Kazera's nose wrinkle. Jake added some preserved earth spices from his kit, transforming the smell into something almost appetizing. How? She leaned closer, inhaling. These smell acceptable now. Magic of cooking, purple girl. Even disappointment tastes better with garlic. She watched him work, fascinated. On Araxes, we process nutrients into optimal configurations. This burning seems chaotic. Best things usually are. Jake offered her the first portion. Careful, it's hot. I require heat. She bit down and her eyes widened. This is, how do you make chaos taste like home? Secret ingredient. Jake winked. I actually know what I'm doing. They ate in comfortable silence, the storm having passed to leave crystal-clear skies. Jake spread out his mapping equipment, checking the previous day's readings. I should continue the survey, he said, technically still on the clock. I will assist. Xera stood, then immediately sat back down as the world spun. After a moment. Easy there. You lost a lot of blood yesterday. Jake steadied her with a hand on her shoulder. Plus, you're still adjusting to the pressure here. Karos is 1.2 Earth standard. I am Iraqi military. We adapt. Sure you do. Jake pulled out his scanner. But humor the human who knows this planet. Let me check you over. She submitted to the scan with poor grace, muttering in her own language. The results made Jake frown. Your core temp's still low, and these readings. He adjusted the scanner. Your metabolism's running triple speed. You're burning through calories trying to stay warm. Then I require more of your chaos food. You require rest and steady heat. Jake made a decision. Survey can wait. Today, we focus on keeping you alive. I do not need coddling. Not coddling, being practical. Jake sat beside her. You're my responsibility now, remember? Human rules. She huffed, but didn't argue further. They spent the morning in a strange domestic rhythm, Jake teaching her to tend the fire while he prepared meals, Xera using her infrared vision to spot dangers he'd miss. There, she pointed to a heat signature in the rocks. Karos serpent. Venomous? Acidic. They spit at 30 feet. Jake made a note in his journal. Good eye. I see heat as you see color. Your entire spectrum is... She gestured vaguely. Limited. Yeah? What do I look like to you? She turned those gold eyes on him, considering. Like Aurora Borealis in flesh, your heat cascades and swirls, never stable. Where blood flows strongest, you burn brightest. That's almost romantic. It is biological fact. But her skin rippled with that emotion color again. By afternoon, they'd developed an efficient partnership. Xera spotted thermal anomalies. Jake interpreted them through experience. His journal filled with new observations. Her strength gradually returned. You enjoy this, she said, watching him sketch a mineral formation, being alone in hostile territory. Not alone anymore. Jake didn't look up from his work. But yeah, it's honest out here. Planet tries to kill you. You survive or don't. No politics, no pretense. You would appreciate Araxes then. We respect honesty above all. She paused. Perhaps too much. No such thing as too much honesty. Then I will be honest. Xera moved closer, her heat like a brand against his side. When you fought yesterday, when you moved like death itself, I felt something I should not. Jake's pencil stilled. Yeah? Iraqi value strength, survivors, warriors who make impossible into inevitable. Her hand covered his. You are dangerous, Jake Sullivan, to my mission, to my control. Xera, but I find I do not care. She turned his face toward hers. Is this what humans call chemistry? Among other things. Jake's voice had gone rough. Show me these other things. This kiss was different, slower, deliberate. She tasted like alien spices and smoke, her mouth fever-hot against his. Jake pulled her onto his lap, hands spanning her waist. Her skin erupted in colors he'd never seen, deep purples and electric violets that pulsed with her heartbeat. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, she looked almost drunk. Your temperature spiked 2.3 degrees. That happens. Jake traced the color patterns on her shoulder. What's this mean? The purple? She caught his hand. We should stop. The bonding process. Right. Duty. Empire. Jake didn't move. But if you weren't on a mission, then I would take you to my bed and learn every way to make your temperature spike. Matter of fact, as a weather report. I would map your body as you map these lands, cataloging each response until... Jake kissed her again, swallowing whatever clinical description was coming. Some things didn't need words. 5 nights. 5 nights of necessary heat sharing that had become something else entirely. Jake lay awake. Xera coiled around him like a beautiful violet snake and wondered when exactly he'd lost control of the situation. You are thinking too loud, she murmured against his chest. Didn't know that was possible. Your heartbeat changes when you worry. Here. She pressed a hand over his heart. Irregular rhythm. What troubles you? Wondering what happens when your people come. Silence. Then, as am I. They'd spent the day mapping the northern ridge, Xera growing stronger with each hour. She'd even attempted cooking, producing something that looked like charcoal but tasted surprisingly good. Her delight at this small success had been infectious. Now, with the acid rain temporarily ceased and stars visible through the shelter's torn roof, reality crept back in. Tell me about Earth constellations, she said, clearly changing the subject. Jake pointed through the gap. That's Orion, the hunter. Those 3 stars are his belt. We see the same stars and call them the burning bridge. She traced patterns on his chest, matching the sky. Each culture makes its own meaning from chaos. What else do you see differently? Everything. She shifted to look up at him. We have no word for pet. The concept of emotional attachment to lesser species was incomprehensible. Was? Until I saw you speak to your grandfather's compass. Tend fire like a living thing. You make connections to the inanimate, give meaning to objects. Her fingers found the compass against his chest. It is illogical and beautiful. We call it sentiment. Yes, humans have sentiment for everything. You would probably name the stars individually if you could. Already did. That one's Fred. She laughed, a sound like silver bells in a furnace. You jest. Maybe. Jake pulled her closer. Or maybe Fred looks like he needs a name, sitting up there all alone, no constellation to belong to. This is why you fight for me, she said quietly. Not because of duty or strategy, because I was alone. Nobody should freeze to death alone. I was not speaking of temperature. They watched stars wheel overhead, content in shared silence. Then Xera pointed to a dim red star near the horizon. That is Araxes, my star. Tell me about it. What would you know? Everything. Start with morning. She was quiet so long Jake thought she wouldn't answer. Then, dawn comes in colors you do not have names for. The 3 suns rise in sequence, Heart of fire, blood of stone, eye of glass. The crystal cities sing with the temperature change, each note perfect and terrible. Her voice painted pictures, markets where merchants traded in temperatures rather than goods, warriors who danced with plasma whips, children who played in pools of liquid metal. A civilization built on heat and honor, as unforgiving as their desert world. We do not have your softness, she finished. No sentiment, no compromise. We survive because we burn hotter than our suns. Sounds lonely. I did not think so until... She trailed off. Until a half-frozen human offered to share his heat with a stranger. She sat up, looking down at him. You have ruined me, Jake Sullivan. I was pure Araki purpose. Now I am confused with human sentiment. Sorry? Do not apologize. She leaned down, silver hair curtaining them. I prefer the confusion. This kiss was different again, desperate, searching. Her skin blazed with patterns Jake was learning to read. Deep purple for desire, electric violet for joy and something new. A gold shimmer that matched her eyes. Xera, he breathed against her mouth. I know, we cannot, should not. But she didn't pull away. Among my people, this coloring. She gestured at her golden skin. It means the bonding has begun. Cellular recognition. We are becoming. Becoming what? Connected. Permanently. She traced his face like she was memorizing it. I should be terrified. My mission, my duty to the Empire, all compromised by biological imperative. But you make chaos taste like home. She smiled, sad and beautiful. And I find I prefer the flavor. Jake reached up, tucking silver hair behind her ear. In the mountains, you learn to appreciate warmth while you have it. Human wisdom. Grandpa, wisdom. Man knew about temporary things. Jake's thumb traced her cheekbone. Also said the best things burn brightest and fastest. More fire metaphors? We're predictable like that. She laughed, then kissed him again. They made love like the universe was ending, desperate, tender, her skin a light show of emotions too complex for words. Jake mapped every curve in response, storing memories against future cold. After, they lay tangled in starlight and satisfaction. Xera's skin still shimmered gold in places, beautiful and damning. Your people, Jake said carefully. They'll know? The moment they see me, yes. Bonding changes us at the cellular level. I will carry your heat signature in my very DNA. That gonna be a problem? For my career? Undoubtedly. For my mission? She sighed. The mission is already compromised. Want to tell me what it really was? No, but I will. She sat up, pulling the blanket around them. Caro 7 has unique properties. The electromagnetic interference, the binary suns, the acid rain. It creates conditions that spawn evolutionary impossibilities. Like the crown jellies the smugglers wanted? Like something far more dangerous. She stared into the fire. We detected an organism here that should not exist. A perfect adaptive predator that could theoretically survive in any environment. My team was sent to verify and, if necessary, eliminate it before anyone else found it. Jake digested this. Bioweapon potential? Beyond imagining. In the wrong hands, it could destabilize entire systems. She looked at him. The smugglers were not random pirates. Someone knew we were coming. Someone wanted the organism and my team eliminated. Zhang mentioned Black Star Syndicate. A front, the real power behind them. She shrugged. Above my clearance. But whoever they are, they have reached into the Empire itself. The ambush was too perfect. So what now? Now? She curled back against him. Now I am a failed operative warming herself with a human who cooks chaos and names stars. My mission is dead, my team is dead, and I should be dead. But you're not. No, because Fred the Star sent you. She smiled at his expression. See? Your sentiment is contagious. The scanner's shriek woke them before dawn. Jake rolled from the sleeping bag, grabbing his rifle in one motion. Xera was already at the shelter's entrance, her naked form painted in pre-dawn shadows. "Multiple signatures," she reported, "coming from the south and east. They're trying to bracket us." Jake checked his equipment. After 5 days, their ammunition was low, the shelter compromised, and Xera, despite her recovery, wasn't at full strength. "How many?" 20, maybe more. She glanced back at him. They brought a full strike team this time, plus heavy weapons from these readings. Jake started packing essential gear. "We can't fight that. So we run? We hunt." Jake's smile was all teeth. Different thing entirely. They moved in practice synchronization, 5 days of partnership condensed into efficient action. Thermal gear, weapons, supplies, everything necessary, nothing more. Jake rigged the shelter with his remaining explosives while Xera erased their trail. "You know what 20 years in the wilderness taught me?" Jake asked as they slipped into the pre-dawn darkness. "Tell me." "Every predator thinks they're apex, until the environment has its say." He took her hand, leading her into the labyrinth of volcanic rock he'd mapped over months. Time to introduce them to Caro 7's opinion on the matter. Behind them, their shelter exploded in a pillar of fire that would be visible for miles. The smugglers would find nothing but ash and the promise of violence to come. Jake pulled Xera close as they ran, sharing heat in the frigid morning air. "Stay with me, Purple Girl. The hunt's just beginning." "To the death?" Her grip on his hand was fierce. "To the pain," Jake corrected. "Death's too easy for people who shoot pretty biologists in the back." Her laugh was bright as starfire. "I am beginning to understand human sentiment, Jake Sullivan." "Yeah? It tastes like revenge, and I find I quite enjoy the flavor." They vanished into Caro 7's waiting embrace, predator and prey about to discover which was which. The methane pocket detonated like God's own flashbang. Jake counted 3 seconds, then emerged from cover to find 2 smugglers writhing in chemical flames. Their screams echoed off volcanic rock before cutting short. "2 more down," he murmured into the comm he'd lifted from a dead merc. "North Ridge clear." Xera's voice crackled back. 5 targets converging on your position. 60 seconds. "Copy. Going dark." Jake smeared himself with volcanic mud, the sulfur stink masking his scent while the minerals scattered his heat signature. Another trick from Grandpa, though the old man had used it for elk, not alien mercenaries. The smugglers moved like professionals, covering angles and checking corners. Good training. Wrong planet. Jake let them pass, then triggered the rock slide he'd prepped that morning. Tons of volcanic glass cascaded down, separating the squad and filling the air with razor-sharp dust. In the chaos, he ghosted between them, a knife here, a stolen plasma bolt there. By the time the dust settled, 3 more were down. "Jake!" Xera's warning came almost too late. The plasma bolt seared past his ear, close enough to smell ozone. Jake rolled behind cover as more shots chewed into rock. "Clever little human," Zhang's voice boomed from hidden speakers. "But games are finished. I have something you want." Jake's blood froze. He keyed the comm. "K, report position." Silence. "Your purple whore is quite beautiful," Zhang continued. "Even bleeding. Come out, and perhaps I let her die quickly." Jake closed his eyes, forcing down the rage. Emotion got you killed. Think. Plan. Hunt. He peeked around the rock. 8 smugglers remained spread in a semicircle. No sign of Xera or Zhang. But there, heat distortion near the eastern approach. Someone hiding under thermal camouflage. "All right," Jake called out. "I'm coming. No weapons." He stood slowly, hands visible. The rifle clattered on stone as he tossed it aside. 8 weapons tracked his movement as he walked into the open. "Jake Sullivan." Zhang emerged from thermal camo, dragging Xara by her silver hair. Fresh blood streaked her face. One arm hung limp. "The ghost who killed my men." "They killed themselves," Jake said calmly. "I just helped them along." Zhang backhanded Xara. She didn't make a sound, but her skin flushed that particular shade of purple Jake recognized as fury. "Tough guy," Jake observed. "Hitting injured women. Your mom must be proud." "My mother sold me to pirates when I was 7. Zhang pressed a plasma pistol to Xara's temple. "I learned early that violence is the only truth." "Huh?" Jake took another step forward. "We got different teachers then." "Stop there." Jake stopped. 12 feet from Zhang. His hands stayed loose at his sides. "My grandpa," Jake continued conversationally, "he taught me something else. Want to hear it?" "Your philosophy bores me." "Fair enough." Jake's smile went feral. "He taught me to always keep something in reserve." He snapped his fingers. The geyser erupted directly beneath Zhang's feet. Jake had mapped every geothermal vent in the region, noted their timing, their pressure buildups. This one had been due to blow in 6 hours. The small explosive he'd placed that morning just helped it along. Superheated water and steam launched Zhang into the air. Xara, lighter and prepared, rolled with the blast. Zhang's scream cut short as he hit volcanic rock at terminal velocity. The 8 smugglers opened fire, but Jake was already moving. He scooped up Xara and dove behind a boulder as plasma bolts turned air to lightning. "You insane human!" she gasped against his chest. "You timed a geyser?" "Lucky guess." He checked her injuries. Bad, but not fatal. "Can you move? Can you keep them busy for 30 seconds? What are you—" She kissed him hard. "Trust me." Then she was gone, moving with liquid grace despite her wounds. Jake cursed and broke cover, drawing fire. A plasma bolt clipped his shoulder, spinning him around. He used the momentum, coming up with Zhang's dropped pistol. The smugglers advanced in formation. Professional, coordinated, dead. Because they were watching Jake, not the shadows. Not the violet ghost with golden eyes who moved like a desert wind given form. Xara took the first one from behind, her good arm crushing his windpipe with mechanical precision. She flowed to the next, using his body as a shield while she stripped his weapon. Her movements were economy itself, no wasted motion, no mercy. Jake laid down covering fire, herding the smugglers into her kill zone. They worked without words. 5 days of partnership crystallized into lethal harmony. He was the distraction, she was death itself. When the last smuggler fell, Xara stood amid the carnage like a purple goddess of war. Her skin rippled with colors Jake had never seen, deep crimsons and electric blues that spoke of Iraqi battle fury. Then she swayed. Jake caught her before she hit the ground. "Easy, purple girl. I got you." "Did we win?" Her voice was thread thin. "Yeah, Kay, we won." "Good." She pressed her face into his neck. "Now I sleep." Jake carried Xara back to their destroyed camp, finding shelter in a shallow cave he'd marked weeks ago. She drifted in and out of consciousness while he worked, field dressing her wounds with the last of his medical supplies. "Stop fussing," she mumbled. "Am fine. You're bleeding purple all over my last clean shirt." "Then remove shirt. Problem solved." Even half dead, she could make him laugh. Jake built a fire at the cave mouth, then settled beside her. She immediately curled into him, seeking heat. "Zhang?" she asked. Geyser expressed its opinion, vigorously. Good geyser." She traced patterns on his chest. "You are injured." "Just a scratch." "Liar." She struggled to sit up. "Let me see." The plasma burn on his shoulder was worse than he'd admitted. 2nd degree at least, maybe 3rd. Xara made a sound of distress. "Jake, it'll keep. Rest now, worry later. Stubborn human." But she settled back against him. "We make good team." The best. They dozed fitfully, taking turns on watch. Jake's shoulder screamed with every movement, but he'd endured worse. The priority was keeping Sarah warm and alive until what? Her people came. His pickup arrived in 3 weeks. The universe suddenly got less complicated. You're thinking loud again, Sarah murmured. Occupational hazard. Tell me Earth story. Distract us both. So Jake talked. Told her about tracking wolves in Yellowstone, about the time he got lost for 3 days and survived on pine nuts and determination. She listened with the focus of someone memorizing every word. Your world shapes warriors from children, she said when he finished. Nah, just stubborn idiots who don't know when to quit. Same thing. She shifted, wincing. Jake, I must tell you something. If this is a deathbed confession, forget it. You're too mean to die. Not confession. Warning. She struggled upright. The organism my team sought. Zhang's people have it. I saw the containment unit in their ship. Jake's blood chilled. The adaptive predator? Yes, if they escape with it. She gripped his hand. It cannot happen. Promise me. Kate, promise. All right, I promise. Jake squeezed her hand. But you're gonna help. We're partners, remember? She smiled, sad and beautiful. Yes, partners. Dawn brought new problems. Jake's shoulder had stiffened overnight and Kazera's fever spiked despite his efforts. They needed medical attention soon. Can you reach your people? Jake asked. Comm unit damaged, but... She touched the military bracelet on her wrist. Emergency beacon. One-time activation. They will come, but everyone else will see it too. Yes. They looked at each other, understanding passing without words. Activate the beacon and invite every scavenger in the sector. Don't activate it and die slowly. Third option, Jake said suddenly. We take their ship. The smuggler vessel? It will be guarded. So was their ground team. Jake stood, testing his shoulder. Painful but functional. You up for one more hunt? Her grin was pure predator. With you, always. They approached the smuggler ship as full dark fell. It sat in a natural bowl of rock, force fields shimmering. 2 guards visible, probably more inside. I count 4 heat signatures, Sarah whispered, plus automated defenses. Double or nothing, then. Jake pulled out his last surprise, a bottle of grain alcohol from his emergency supplies. How do you feel about performance art? I do not understand. You will. He started dousing himself with the alcohol, then added tree sap for good measure. The combination reeked like a distillery explosion. Jake, what are you... He lit himself on fire. The sap burned slow and cool, hot enough to look terrifying, not enough to do real damage. For about 60 seconds anyway. Jake became a human torch, screaming wordlessly as he charged the ship. The guard's reaction was predictable. Trained soldiers, faced with a burning madman, they hesitated just long enough. Jake crashed into the first one, spreading alcohol and flames. The man shrieked, batting at fire that was more show than substance. The second guard raised his weapon. Xera's shot took him center mass. Jake rolled in the dirt, extinguishing the flames. His skin screamed protest. First-degree burns over most of his torso, but alive. The sap had done its job. Funny thing about humans, he gasped to the terrified guard. We learn to use fire before we learn to fear it. Xera appeared like a violet angel of death, weapon trained on the downed smuggler. Ship codes. Now. The man babbled numbers. Jake noted them, then knocked him unconscious with efficient brutality. Inside the ship, they found 2 more smugglers who surrendered immediately. The story of the ghost who decimated their ground team had spread. Cargo hold, Xera directed. The organism, they found it. A containment unit that hummed with malevolent energy. Inside, something that looked like living shadow pressed against transparent aluminum. "Destroy it?" Jake asked. "No, too dangerous. The unit must be jettisoned into the sun." Xera's fingers flew over controls. There, course locked. "And us?" She smiled, exhaustion and satisfaction mingling. "Medical bay first. Then—" She activated her beacon. "We wait for my people. Together. Together." The Araki destroyer, Pride of Suns, arrived 7 days later. 7 days Jake and Xara spent in the smuggler ship's medical bay, healing and talking and carefully not discussing the future. She taught herself to tend fire in the ship's small galley, treating it with the reverence of a sacred ritual. Jake's small star, she called it, feeding the flames with the focused intensity she brought to everything. He told her Earth stories each night, her head on his chest, their heartbeats sinking in the recycled air. She traced his scars like she was writing memories into her skin. "They will want to study you," she warned on day 6. "The bonding. It has never happened with a human before." "Let 'em try." Jake pulled her closer. "I bite." This is not a joke, but she was smiling. "My career, my standing, all complicated now." "Regrets?" "Only one." She kissed him slow and deep. "That we have so little time." They made love like the universe was ending, desperate and tender by turns. Her skin sang colors Jake would dream about for months after, deep purples and electric golds that mapped pleasure across her body like living art. When the Pride of Suns announced final approach, they dressed in silence. Xera wore her backup uniform from the ship. Jake stuck with his weathered frontier gear. "You could come with me," she said quietly. "To Araxes? They'd love a primitive human tracking mud through their crystal cities." "I am serious." "So am I." Jake touched her face. "You've got duty. I've got 3 more months mapping this rock. We both know how this ends." "Do we?" She pulled out her military comm bracelet. "This has my direct channel, encrypted, untraceable." "K, take it." She pressed it into his hand. "For when you realize humans are not the only stubborn species in the galaxy." Jake pulled his grandfather's compass from around his neck. "Trade you. This is precious to you." "Yeah, well." He fastened it around her neck. "Grandpa always said a good compass points you home. Figure you might need it more than me." The docking clamps engaged with a final thud. Commander Crossan of the Pride of Suns was everything Jake expected from Araki military, tall, purple, and radiating disapproval like a furnace. Biologist Xara. His gold eyes took in her appearance, lingering on the bonding marks. "You have been compromised." "I have been saved," Xera corrected, "by Frontier Warden Jake Sullivan. He also helped secure the organism and eliminate the smuggling ring." "I see." Crossan turned those eyes on Jake. "Human, you will submit to examination." "He will not." Xera stepped between them. "The Warden has duties to complete. He stays here." "The bonding must be studied." "The bonding is none of the Empire's concern." Her skin rippled with warning colors. "I will make full report upon return. Alone." Crossan looked between them, calculation in his gaze. Then he smiled, a thin, political thing. "As you wish, though I suspect this compromise will have consequences." "Everything does," Jake said mildly. "That's what makes it interesting." Xera turned to him. They looked at each other while Crossan waited with visible impatience. "Araki have no word for what exists between us," Jake Ghost Sullivan. "Humans do, but you won't like it. We call it warmth." "Then I will carry your warmth with me." She touched the compass at her throat. "And one day, return it, with interest." "I'll hold you to that, purple girl." She kissed him once more, fierce and quick, then walked onto her ship without looking back. Jake watched until the airlock sealed. then returned to the empty smuggler vessel. The bottle of whiskey he'd been saving lasted 2 days. The burn in his shoulder lasted 3 weeks. The ache of her absence lasted longer. 3 months later, Jake stood in the debriefing room at Titan Station, watching bureaucrats argue about his report. Caro 7 turned out to have enough exotic minerals to spark a colonial gold rush. His hazard pay would set him up for years. "Outstanding work, Sullivan," Director Martinez was saying. "Ready for your next assignment." Jake's comm unit chimed. Not his standard unit, the Araki military bracelet he wore like a watch. Text scrolled across in elegant script. New assignment available. Disputed border region. Araki Federation neutral zone. High hazard pay. Specific requirements. 1 human scout with experience in extreme environments. Must provide own fire-making materials. Thermal capsules not acceptable. Mission Coordinator, Dr. K. Thex Dar, Chief of Expedition Security. Additional notes. Pack for 2. Interest payment now due. Jake grinned. "Actually, Director, I might have a lead on something." He pulled out his grandfather's compass, the cheap replacement he'd bought on Earth. The needle spun freely, useless as ever. But when he held it up to the star map on the wall, it pointed straight to a red dwarf on the border. "Guess Grandpa was right," he murmured. "A good compass always points you home." 1 year later, the report was buried in subsection C of the Xenobiology Quarterly, barely rating a footnote. First confirmed human-Araki hybrid offspring recorded, parents listed as J. Sullivan, Earth, and K. Thex Dar, Araxes. Child exhibits unique thermoregulation abilities, further study pending. The accompanying photo showed a purple infant with startling green eyes, wrapped in a thermal blanket by a campfire. Someone had scrawled a note on the margin. "Her name is Ember. She likes her formula warmed over open flames." J. The galaxy, it seemed, had just gotten a little warmer,